Hi, this is Pete Gooding from Ibiza, musical director at Hostel La Torre, and you are listening to the Liverpool Connection podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm your host, Daz. This is my football and music episode where I bring on a guest who's into football and obviously music. Again, it's so good to do these episodes because I get to bring on people that have been a part of my musical landscape. And my next guest has been because I'm a massive breaks, drum and bass, dub, hip hop, fan. Um, I remember because I've been in Austin over 30 plus years, and they came a long, long time ago to a place called Liberty Lunch, and he brought everyone with him and break dancers with him on a very, very small stage, but he got the job done. But I'm proud to introduce Aston Harvey from the Freestylers. Welcome, mate. It's great to have you.
Good afternoon to you.
I don't even know if you remember that show.
You know what? It was South by Southwest, right? It
I,
must have been.
I believe so.
Yeah, we when we were signed, we got signed in America to this label in '98, but then we was doing loads of touring with the live band and the whole crew in '99 mostly, and we got booked to do South by Southwest. And yes, I remember that venue. It was pretty mad. Yeah, tight little stage, packed. It was absolutely packed. No one could even move. But I can't remember the gig. I'm sure it was great. But it was pretty small stage and with a lot of people trying to do their thing.
Yeah, it's quite funny because I'm surprised like none of the dancers like fell off the stage because yeah, it was tiny bit. Yeah, I remember it being packed and they had a massive, massive fan in there that was annoying the crap out of me because it made a lot of noise.
Oh, right, okay.
Anybody that was standing next to it could barely like hear the show because it was just so
Really?
damn.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. I mean, I've never heard of that before. I know sometimes drummers, like our drummer had, like in hot countries, or remember when we did like Australia, we did Big Day Out, or like some of the venues were so hot. Yeah, he'd have a fan behind him to
Oh, this was an
keep them.
industrial.
But this is like, yeah, this sounds like quite this. I've never seen that in a venue before, like a huge fan.
Yeah, it
Like,
should never have been in there, but like, yeah, because they had the same, I think, because Orbital played there as well, and they had the same damn thing. So I knew next time not to stand next to it. So that was always good.
is that venue still there, and is the fan still there?
That probably the fans still there, but the venue's closed down a long, long time. It's I think it's high rises now, which is most
Uh,
of Austin, which is sad because a lot of these great venues, no longer exist, which is it's sad to say, but you
Same,
know,
like the same in the UK. There's a lot of venues that have, we've been doing it for like 25, 26 years now, freestylers. And some of the venues, yeah, they've closed down. They're now, flats,
well,
businesses.
all you have to do is look at like the hacienda.
Yeah, yeah,
That's flats, very, very expensive flats, but
yeah.
that's the world we live in. But if people didn't know, Aston is a Tottenham fan, Spurs, which is all right,
For all my sins.
oh, we're going to go through the whole football, and then we'll talk a bit about the freestylers. But growing up, obviously London lad. Why Spurs for you?
I think it was like my friends. I think probably, yeah, it was definitely my friends that were supporting Spurs, and I think probably from the first, I probably from about the age of 8 or 9, I think I first remember because my dad wasn't really into football at all. So normally, obviously, your introduction to football and most sports would be your parents, so especially your dad. But yeah, no, my dad wasn't into football. He was more into snooker. I didn't really understand it. But yeah, and I kind of got it through my friends. and and I just followed Spurs from about age 8, 9. I really didn't, to be honest, I didn't really. I wasn't like crazy until probably about sort of the mid-90s when I really started following, and I started going to games, and then eventually I got my first season ticket at the beginning of, like, I think my first season ticket, it was 2001, 2002 season, and then I became like totally obsessed, you know.
Well, I think it, like, you know, when you're younger, you know, because I went with my granddad up until I was about 15. But then I think when you're a teenager and then you're finally able to go to the matches with your mates, then you really feel invested in it. You know, I mean, for me, obviously, early on, I went when I was 6, so I didn't quite understand what was really going on the pitch, and you know, I was more looking around, seeing who was in the stadium and stuff. But yeah, at 15, it just opens up a whole new, you know, especially away matches. You know, where I used to tell my mum I'm just going into town, but then I'd obviously get on the train and go to places I shouldn't have gone to. But you know, that's here and there. I still had
you were looking around. It's like, obviously having a season ticket, I go there and I sit in the same, I see the same people. Some people sell their season ticket, blah, blah, blah. But when you go to an away game, the cross section of people that goes, that's when you see the real cross section of people that come to a football match. And it's just the maddest, you know, it's just mad. Like the different backgrounds where people come, even though they come from the same town as you, it's like, it's mad. But that's where you see the real cross section of people, because they've made the effort. Apart from, you know, normally, I mean, for me to get to Tottenham, you know, London, everything's small roads, so you know, even to go 10 miles is like an hour. I think Tottenham's not that far from me, but it's still, I give myself, you know, plenty of time to get there because of the traffic and the small roads, blah blah blah. But you know, going to an away game, that's like a proper mission, especially like I'm not doing it again because I said, because you can't even see anything. But like if you go to St James's Park at Newcastle, it's just like you drive from London, so it's like 5 hour drive from London. You get there and you're like put in the stadium like so far up high. I think they were told they have to change it because it's unfair. But if you're an away fan coming to, I know we have the you know, the best stadium in the country, and it's the newest one. But if you're watching as an away fan, you get a really, really good view. Whereas going to Newcastle, everyone complains about it, but they've never done anything about it. It's like you're watching the game and you're thinking, why is everyone playing so slow? But they're not. You're just so high up. You're so far removed. But
yeah, it's like you're on a delay.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, but getting back to it, it's just a mad cross section of people that just, it brings, you know, there's very few things that bring people together. Music and football especially brings people together, you know.
Well, I remember, like, one of my favorite moments for Spurs is as an 11-year-old, 1981, FA Cup final against City. I remember the first match wasn't the best, but it was the replay, and I was just enamored with Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa. I mean, Ricky Villa scored one of the best goals.
All-time classic. They always show, don't worry, they always show that, and they always bring it, like every few months they bring either Ozzy or Ricky Villa on the pitch, and you know, it goes through, oh, what was it like? But they ask them the same questions. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it was one of the, you know, the best goals I've seen. I remember I had a track and field event that morning, and some knobhead hit me with a bottle.
Yeah.
We were playing kick arounds with a glass bottle, and it smashed me tooth.
Oh.
And you know, they couldn't get me in at the dentist, but it was FA Cup final day, so I was there with a pillow watching the match. But I scream and Ricky Villa, because I mean, obviously I'm a Liverpool supporter, but I'm also a football supporter as well. You know, I like watching good matches, and that was just a brilliant match to watch as an 11-year-old kid. So yeah, it's one of my moments of being non-Liverpool. So I'll give you that one. I
That's
mean,
right.
for Spurs, you know, it must be tough because you get kind of ridiculed because you haven't won, you know, the trophies that you should be winning. Um, but I mean, I think football goes in stages. You know,
Well,
United, Liverpool in the 70s were absolutely brilliant. We were winning everything. Then, you know, comes the 90s and it's United. Then Liverpool start winning again, but in between it's Chelsea, now it's Man City. It's got to be frustrating for you. You know, you see like the Arsenal's starting to do better. What's your whole take on that?
um, well, you know, the main person who gets a lot of stick is Daniel Levy, and so obviously over the years, this guy is he's a fan of Tottenham, and he's invested his time, his money, his energy into this football club to try and make it as great as possible. They wouldn't have built a brand new stadium if they didn't believe. So they feel especially with nowadays, with like Man City. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with their FFP, financial play thing. I mean, everyone's waiting to find out whether it happens or not. But anyway, the brilliant thing about Tottenham Stadium now, which is why Man United were very successful in the 90s, they had the biggest stadium. They were selling the most amount of merchandise. So all this money was coming in. They were able to offer players, the best players at the time, the best contracts. They were the best team. They were the team you wanted to go to. Whereas Man City now, they don't have to have all that. I know they're more successful now when they first, but they can just, right, here we go. Here's X amount of million. But, the whole thing about Tottenham, we're trying to build our own revenue through merchandise, through the state, and it's working. They've built this $1 billion stadium, but, with the concerts, with the merchandise, they've got this go-kart track, it's just a money-making machine, which is brilliant. And as fans, we're hoping that they are going to invest this money in the team. And we have to believe that's what the owner wants to do. And, I mean, it's there. No, yes, it's very frustrating. Under Pochettino, we were very close, but he wasn't given, that final. He wasn't get. He was, he had that final hurdle to get over, and they just didn't give him enough money, and it kind of just went sour. Probably, he probably reached the point he couldn't do anything any further because he wasn't given the money. They couldn't refresh everything. Everyone wrote us off because we were playing at Wembley. That he spent most of his Tottenham managerial and not even our stadium. It was mostly at Wembley, and it was the curse of Wembley. We did fantastic there. The great thing about Wembley, it's only 4 stops from my house on the train, so it was easy to get to. But he was a brilliant, and I still, Spurs fans are really, really. You got a very mixed section of Spurs. You've got some Spurs fans who go on about the old times, and yes, it's our right, very entitled and to it's why isn't it us? Well, there's other, I mean, even in an FA Cup, it doesn't matter if lowly, I don't know, like Scunthorpe United, they're trying to do exactly what everyone else trying. They're going to try and win a game. Obviously, they probably won't win the game, but they all, otherwise, you've got to be in it to win it, as they say. But I think over the past few years with the stadium and the way we're going about things, it has put us in a better spotlight globally as a brand and as a team that players want to come to. I know we tried Mourinho, we tried Conte, worked for 5 minutes, and then it didn't. And Conte, I don't know, I never really warmed to Conte. He was always, I don't know, he just had this way about it. It was quite, it was quite sort of dynamic watching this guy on the sidelines, like running around like a madman. a bit like Klopp, but even more so. I mean, it's just like, and then now we have Ange Postecoglou, who's very stands there, but he does all his work beforehand. This guy is the players have really warmed to him. I have to believe this guy knows what he's doing. When the first 10, 12 games, we were just blowing teams away. They didn't know what to. So hopefully we'll have the same thing, with it's going to be interesting this year. But I feel like we've got to stick with someone. In all fairness, as much as I being a Spurs fan, I dislike Arsenal. A lot of those fans wanted Arteta out for 4 seasons. Out after the first, but the higher authorities stuck with him. And, now it's reaping benefits for them because they've had some stability. He's grown in the job, I guess. Hopefully they'll fail again next year. But, it's just like they have improved but they still won. They still won a cup when the Villa manager, what's his name?
Emery.
Sorry?
Unai Emery.
Yeah, no, Emery. They won a cup, I think, when he was there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're still waiting for a cup to come our way. But, I don't know. We've done silly things. Who knows? We always go, oh, next year. Personally, because it took us, there was a stage we couldn't even get into the Europa League. And then we got into the Europa League. Oh, some fans, we're too good to be in, we've got to be in the Champions League. Yeah, but, it's hard to get in there. And then eventually we got in the Champions League. And obviously under Redknapp first, and that year when we lost out because Chelsea won the Champions League, we were 4th, and then that was the only time that happened. The first and only time that we had to drop out, and then obviously he did well. Then he got the sack, and then so the only times we've been in Champions League, the manager has always sort of. Well, apart from Pochettino, when he got us there on a regular basis, I was happy. We were competing. We were on the map. People knew in Europe about Tottenham and what we were doing. So it was like, for me personally, that is like winning a cup because it's bloody hard. Do you know what I mean? It's like, especially nowadays, everyone's competing like this. Last season was a bit all over the shop. We had started off brilliantly, then we petered out. We had a load of injury. We had loads of injuries throughout this whole season, and obviously Villa ended up being in there. Villa wouldn't be the team I would have thought. I'd thought Newcastle, but then they weren't very good last year.
Well, I think Villa will probably do a Newcastle in the Champions League. I can't see them doing really well, to be honest. And I think I have this chat with Liverpool fans as well. Obviously when you start the season, you want to win the league. You want to win the Champions League. If you're in it, you want to win it, right? But you have to be realistic. I mean, for us, we've got a brand new manager, and people are already going, well, if we're not here at Christmas, he needs to go. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, come on, you've got to give these managers a chance. We're not Chelsea.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Chelsea are just a joke.
To think like Pochettino had that team playing really well, and if they would have stayed, they would have been really good this season. I don't know what the Ipswich manager's like. Obviously, again, don't like Chelsea. Hopefully, they'll do crap, but it's like, why do that? You're in a good position to move forward. A lot of the players, like Cole Palmer, was saying it was brilliant work because he really improved me. That's the thing about football managers. Like the difference between when there was the gap between when Pochettino left Tottenham up until like now, like he made players better. Like he made all those players so much better than when they were when he took over from it was Sherwood that was like sort of assistant manager, but it was before that. I think it was AVB, who I don't know. It didn't really improve. I mean, okay, Gareth Bale had that amazing season under him, but I don't know. He was just an amazing player. But Pochettino was the first manager I can think that actually made all these players and got us into the forefront of where we are now. You know, I think if it wasn't for Pochettino, Mourinho wouldn't have come, or yeah, especially Mourinho, because we, you know, and obviously probably saw the, you know, the glowing lights of this new stadium in Champions League and blah blah blah, and, you know, so I think he has a lot to play, and I do have a soft, and it was obviously a bit gutting that he went to Chelsea, but he, you know, they didn't want to give him a job. You can't resent the guy, but yeah, moving forward, I mean, this season is going to be interesting. I mean, I know you can't really take much from pre-season. They're playing, you know, I'm a bit of a, you know, I'll watch. Well, I'm going to watch the first 45 minutes of tonight. I think they're playing Hearts, but and then they've got some. Weirdly enough, they're going. I think they're going to Japan next week and Korea, because obviously Son's like a god there, and they just make, it's like money making machine again. You know, like get Tottenham over there, they'll just. It's like, I think we're the most supported club in the whole of South Korea, and there's a lot of South Koreans. When I go to where my seat is, because I sit practically, I sit in the lower east, and my seat's like 4 rows from the pitch, so I'm in a desirable spot. So it's just like loads of Sun fans, you know, lots of Koreans coming in buying probably packages to come along to the games, and also what Tottenham's done now, which is very good, when you're selling, if you can't make it to a game, it used to be, I can't make it to a game, and then the stress, I want to sell the ticket. But now it's called ticket exchange. So you say you tell them you can't go. Well, you know, it's all done on a computer, and then literally, I think I had the one time I had COVID. My friend who I sit next to, he sold his ticket, and I hadn't sold the ticket. He said, "Why don't you put it up in the exchange?" So it was like 3 hours before the game. No one's going. Well, it doesn't happen hard. Literally, I put it on, and like within 5 minutes, it went. So obviously, you know, and then subsequently, when I have been away, you know, because I travel a lot for the DJ gig and stuff, I've put it up, and it goes like within 5-10 minutes. It's so much stress free, and the good thing is, like, you can keep the credit in there. I try and keep it to the end of the season, and then it feels like you're paying less for the season ticket at the end.
We Liverpool went to, I think it was Singapore and Southeast Asia last year, which we probably shouldn't have done. I just think like sometimes it's all about money. And this year, you know, they're coming to the States for 2 or 3 matches, which is a lot easier than flying all the way to, you know, Singapore. But I definitely want to talk to you about 2019 Champions League final.
Yeah.
You know,
I went to it. I was there.
Not to rub it in. I just thought, especially after losing to Madrid the year before, I was so positive we would beat you. I just had it like, and I think the players knew as well. It did kind of ruin it. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm on the good end. Within a minute, there's a penalty that changes the whole game. You know, people can say, was it a penalty? Was it not? You know, I thought it was a bit daft to kind of put your arm forward. Like, who was it that did it?
Well, basically, what happened was it was Sissoko, and to be honest, right. So to save a bit of money, because it was, you know, anytime a final hits or anything like that, you know, like the flights go up, the hotels go up. So I had this I found flights to, I ended up flying to Toulouse in France. Someone drove from London, picked us up in Toulouse, and then we drove to Madrid, and it was like, left the hotel at about 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and got to Madrid about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon after driving for like all those hours, nearly dying, and basically, I don't know what happened, but we might have gone the wrong way down the motorway, and Anyway, we didn't die. We had a moment. But I think the reason why it was actually a bit of a drab final. I mean, I know I'm only a punter, and I know these players are fit, but they're not used to playing in those conditions. Yeah, and it was so hot. And I mean, the thing is, I know I was up early, but it was just like it was making it so hard to stay awake as well, because it was just the heat was just draining. And as I said, I know, these players, they might go there a day before to train. We're playing, it was two English clubs that were playing, most of the year round in shitty weather, apart from the beginning of the season and maybe the last couple of weeks of the season. But, that's why I think a lot of the finals, Spain gets into the final a lot, is because come the summertime when they're playing these finals, they're used to the heat. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're used to those conditions. Their bodies are used to it. But the whole penalty just threw it off. I think the fact that Kane wasn't fit because he sat out the quarter final and the semi final, and we still got to the final without him. Lucas Moura, who was the hero, and I think he would forever be a hero, Tottenham hero. Got us through to the final through his magic of just him. Didn't get to, only came on as a substitute on the final, and it was because of him that we got to the final, which was a shame. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. Went home disappointed, but and again, because that's then that's when Poch, after a couple of months in, he got the sack. Not because we lost, but I think it's just like something must have happened behind. The thing is, all these fans' speculation. We don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. It's all speculation, paper talk, TV. Doom and gloom mongers, and that's for every club. It's like, but it was great to say, yeah, I went there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough, Liverpool we've played Madrid in so many finals and lost. It's horrible to get there, and watch your team just get knocked off the park. I mean, but the game, I thought the game wasn't that good, to be honest.
I'm saying, I think it was because of, honestly, I mean, like, I'm just there as a punter, but I think it was the conditions. It was really hot, and the players would have only got there, like, say, the day before. And it doesn't matter how fit they are; they're not used to it. Okay, when they go and do like the Euros now, they go there like a week before, don't they? And they start training and getting into the climatized and stuff. But to go there the day before.
Well, people, I think people,
yeah.
So people don't really realize, like, it's so much hotter in the stadium than outside, because it's more condensed in there. So people you're literally,
bodies next to you. You've got your bodies next to you that are heat, and then it's like the sun, especially because it was in Madrid, which is like one of the hottest places. It's hot and dry. It's like playing in an oven, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough on the fans, tough on the players. But yeah, I mean that for me, that final, it wasn't that good, but obviously we won it, and that kick-started, Klopp winning the league the next season. Now for you, let's talk about Kane, because obviously, Kane's a record breaker for you. Do you think it was the right time for him to move?
It's what his ambition was. I mean, his ambition, he wants to win something, and he felt probably he did all he can do at Tottenham and not reap any benefits. New manager as well. He thought probably, what is he, 30? If he doesn't go now, he'll never go. So, and it's quite weird that he never like his season was, he was banging them in and just didn't win anything. So like, again, for Tottenham, it's like weird. And even like for England, I know, I personally think if Harry Kane had played for, let's say, Man United, he wouldn't get any stick. The stick heart. It's just a Tottenham thing. It's just like he's constantly just ripped to shreds for some reason or other. You know. I mean, I don't know. He supposedly was injured. He didn't do much until, you know, the whole tournament. Not, you know, okay, we scored a couple of goals, but the whole tournament, England didn't really set anyone on lot. You know, we just about won the first game in the group stage. We drew the other two games. Then we obviously got through to this last 16. Went penalties. Then we beat, you know, and we had what we would call an easier run of teams to play as well. So it's not like, you know, and obviously he's captain, and I don't know. It's just weird. He's got to be the unluckiest guy in football. Mm-hmm. How can he bang him? You know, how can he bang that many goals in for Bayern Munich on a first season? And obviously at Tottenham's the highest ever goal scorer.
Well, you got to think too, like, but this is the first. Last season was the first season that Bayern hadn't won any trophy. So, yeah. You know, obviously people are going to go, is Kane the problem? I'm like, how is Kane the problem when he's banging 40 plus goals in? He's not the problem.
Exactly. I think he would probably bang in that many goals wherever he goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a class player, obviously. I actually think it was a really good move to make Son the captain. I love Son. I wish Klopp would have gone in for him, because I just, all around, he just looks like a nice fella. Like,
the players love him, the manager, you know, everyone he's just an all-round decent human. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen on Amazon Prime, they did Sensational. Yeah. You know, it just seems like a really, you know, he's just very, very geared football, and his small fan was, he's you know, I don't know, it's just like, he just seems like a really, your mate, you know. It's I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I think also, like, what's his name, Postecoglou made James Maddison vice captain, and also Cuti Romero, and they were very good moves as well, because they're both good players. And I think as an all-round, he made the right decision straight away, Postecoglou, for the team. It would have been interesting to see if Harry had stayed, what would have happened. But that's like, if, you know, again, like, even like back to, I thought Gareth Bale was the most magical player for us. Like, as much as Harry Kane is, I just don't, there was something about Gareth Bale. And even when he came back, and I don't know what happened, Mourinho didn't let him play enough. I don't know what, I think that's why, I don't know what, so that was weird, you know, because he got sacked like 4 days for our cup final. He got us to the cup final, but, and Bale, like, he only played, you know, I know it was during COVID as well, which is a shame. But when he came on, he lit the pitch up, and it's like, he scored goals, you know, and it's just a shame that sort of was like his last, COVID was his last, like hurrah at Tottenham, really. You know, no fans in the ground. That was weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it obviously showed everyone, like, football without fans is shite.
Yeah, we did Man United 6-1 though. That was a good one.
Yeah, and we lost, what was it, 7-2 to Villa.
There was some crazy results in that period.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, when you do have fans in the stadium, it cheese on your team. I mean,
yeah.
Liverpool, obviously, you know, they say the famous 12th man. Yeah, it was a tough watch. I mean, the only thing that I liked was you could actually hear the players kind of talk one another screaming. Like I remember Henderson, you know, giving it out as the captain. Like you could hear what he's saying. You get there, you get there. That was kind of interesting, but the rest of it was just crap. It was like going down to your local Sunday league match and just, you know, watching it. It was just I couldn't be bothered. But a player I do like for Spurs is Romano because he's got the dark arts down. You know, I mean, that's what you want in a centre back.
That's it, yeah. And he's just won another. You know, as a player, well, he's playing in one of the best. Argentina is one of the best, you know, countrysides you can play for. And he's just won another cup. He's just come back. They won another cup. They won the Copa de America, I think. This, you know, so he's a brilliant. Him and Van de Ven. I mean, the thing is, when you get these players in and you shove them straight, you don't know what they're going to be like. You hope it's going to be, but it seemed to be like Van de Ven and Romero together. Well, they are very good. They're fantastic. And then we had that mad game against Chelsea, which, you know, he knocked out, you know, 4 or 5 of our players. That was it. We had 2 suspensions. We had an injury. It was just, that's what really threw our season. It was like mad. It was like, and we didn't really have a backup plan for when Van de Ven or Romero's out. So I think obviously they're going to buy. So well, they've got this guy. I just call him Dragusin. He's played really well for Romania, and I think he'll be a big player for us next season. But I think they'll buy some more players. But Romero is quality. He's strong. He can score. And again, you know, he's a bit of
he's a bit of a dick. But that's what you need. I mean, you know, Liverpool. I remember, you know, Hansen and Loro were the same. They were very, very good on the ball and everything, but they were also good at, like, you know, messing with the opposition players. And I think Romano does that really well. Like, I mean, like for us, Liverpool and Spurs, when we play each other, it's always an entertaining match.
It's always a good. It's regarded as a big game. It has, to say, over the last, let's say, 10 years, or well, let's say 12 years, there was definitely a gap that Liverpool were better, but it has got closer now. That, you know, we actually haven't won at Anfield though for a long time. We've drawn a lot, but we haven't actually won. But we've beaten you at Tottenham quite a few times. But but the gap has got closer.
Well, it's two attacking teams, and that's what I like, and you know, that's what I like about your new manager. Not only is he not as animated as, you know, like you said, Conte's or the Mourinho's.
You don't need someone running up and down and screaming.
No, you know, I even like what he did to some of the Spurs fans who were yapping to him, and he turned around and he had a go at them. I like that, because why should you hear that every single week? You know, somebody in your ear. I like how he just turned around and was just kind of like, you know, you do better. Come on.
Yeah, well, you know, that's it. You need a very brazen Australian guy. Australians be quite brazen in their way, and he's perfect for that. I think it fits. You know, again, you know, you're going to have a blip. Nobody's going to have a perfect season, but, you know, and there was a bit of time last season where fans weren't getting behind and you know, but then at the end it was better. And the thing is, you know, talking about the noise, like they've got, our cop is 17,000 people. I mean, like if they're all singing, it is really loud, like really loud. I don't know, because you've got that many people in one area, you know, especially, you know, certain teams when you're playing your rivals like the Chelseas and the Arsenal. But this year, even against Arsenal at home when we lost, it was just like the atmosphere was flat. You don't expect that. But then again, you know, we shall see what happens next year.
Well, what are your real expectations then for this?
Well, our expectations, I think we would like to, when Europa League, I'd like to think we can go far. I mean, Europa League, you know, if you're a top 5 club in England, compared to, most teams that end up in the latter stages are either Eastern European or some lower division. Wouldn't I say lower, like lower down the league in the Serie A, Spanish. So, which everyone says, oh, they're not as good, but obviously they're okay because a lot of the times, they knock all the English sides out. You know what I mean? It's like, so, but I'd like to go as far as we can. I can't say, oh, we're going to win Europa League, but it would be nice to, get far in the competition. And again, obviously, try and, this is, be like, go as far as that, try and win a League Cup or FA Cup. Obviously, FA Cup's a lot harder. So League Cup and top four again, top four again will be on the agenda. So there's quite a lot of things to expect, but like, sometimes it doesn't all happen. So like when you can get Champions League and also win the league, like Man City have done quite a few times, it's an amazing feat, but also they've spent an amazing amount of money to do that.
And like we talked earlier, a lot of charges against them as well.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say back to like when Abramovich came along, obviously it was still Man United dominating every year, maybe. And obviously he's right. I'm going to spend my money, put money where I was going to make Chelsea the best club in England, and he did. And then the guy who owns Man City, however much Abramovich had, this guy's got even treble, quadruple, and they've done the same thing, and they proved the point. I mean, even back in when did Blackburn win the league? Was it 96, 7? At that time they spent the most money, didn't they? They bought they bought a player for like £1 million. It was like, what you've put, it's so it's proved that apart from when Leicester freakishly won the league, they've proved it's the teams with the most money win something.
Well, I mean that's why a lot of people didn't understand when Klopp last season was like, when Liverpool win trophies, it means more to us, because of the way we've gone about it. We don't do we stay in financial fair play rules. FSG, I think, run the club well. Obviously, I don't love them. I don't love any owners. I'm a Liverpool football supporter. Could they spend a bit more money in the transfer window? Obviously, yes. It is frustrating to sometimes when we won the Champions League, why we didn't buy, A, B, C player to kind of push forward. But we won the league the season after. But as you know, Twitter can be very toxic, and people want to win this transfer window league, this fictional league that they think is in their head. Like, you've got to buy these 100 million players, and I just think it's just gotten a bit crazy. I mean, there's this talk of this Euro kid, 18-year-old lad from Lille, who's could go to United or could go to Madrid. Madrid want him, but Madrid always play this silly little waiting game. If the kid wants to go there, but it's 50 million for an 18-year-old. For an 18-year-old who has played in the French league a season or two. And people are just losing their heads, why isn't Liverpool in for him? We have a young lad who's 19 called Kwanzaa. I just don't understand. People, Bowley to me for Chelsea is a prime example. It's like playing FIFA.
Well, it's like they bought that guy. What's his name? It cost them 112 million from Brighton. Rubbish.
Yeah,
rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's because Brighton said, and they've said. I mean, I don't even know if that was a Pochettino buy, but what's his name? Begins with Cass. I know the guy. He begins with C. I can't remember his name. Anyway,
Casado.
Yeah, is it Casado? Yeah.
And they bought Lavia, who didn't play one match.
The whole joke. That's what I'm saying. And then So it took them a whole season. Like the last couple of months, Chelsea were playing really well. They were like, as far as like league position, they were like second or something because of the game, just obviously because they'd lost all those games previously. But Pochettino had to deal with all the jigsaw puzzle, and eventually was getting it. I'm saying, I hope this new manager is going to be a complete failure for them. Just out of sight.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Cole Palmer saved their season, 100%. If he wasn't in the team, but I mean, when you buy that many players and then they're on this ridiculous 7 to 9 year contract, and they're playing the game as well. What City do, they find this loophole and then they exploit it because they should be done in PSR as well. But Bowley's selling hotels, car parks, to balance the books, and that's just wrong. But it is what it is. But I'd rather win the way Liverpool have won, and
I totally agree. Look, it's like I don't know. It's a bit like music, right? People say to me, "Oh, why don't you make more push-ups?" Or my most commercial or my most successful. I didn't engineer that. I just it was like a magic moment. I didn't, I'm not when it comes to making music, I'm not calculating. I just go by if it feels good. I don't think, oh, it's going to go in the charts. I know if it's a good tune, you get that, feel that it's a good tune. But I don't, calculate. Otherwise, there's a lot of people, the reason why pop music nowadays is pretty crap is because it's very calculated, because the record companies, the small margins, much smaller margins, so they have to get it right. So they stick to a formula, and it has to be like ABC. Whereas years ago it could be whatever. That's why the dynamic in music from the 70s to, let's say, the mid 90s was just so magical. It's just like, but nowadays, I mean, I don't think you listen to what your kids listen to anyway. It's like, like the big artists that are now are probably, the biggest that you could possibly ever get. But that's because it's so concentrated. There's not many, there's no bands anymore. I was never really a band person personally, but you don't really, what bands are, if it's a band, it's the same band, or they'll bring back a band that's already big, that was big, and it's the same, the same U2, Depeche Mode, these are bands from the 80s. Still touring, massive bands. Rolling Stones, people still want to go and see the Rolling Stones. It's just like, but as far as, my expertise is dance music, but, when it comes to, there's no even electronic, apart from maybe the Prodigy, who are still doing their live thing, because it's so bloody expensive to tour with a band. Back from when we were first starting, like, when we first started talking about doing the South by Southwest, it was with a band, but it was just like really expensive. I love doing shows with the band. It's just a total different dynamic to just DJing. But yeah, it's not really, in dance music now, you can just be a DJ and a load of lights, and that's, they're doing that thing I saw at the Sphere in Vegas, New Year's Eve. They've advertised. I mean, it's just, it's like a next level of stuff. So, but if you get involved in there and you're doing a show there, well, you can be playing anything, and they'll just put these mad visuals up, and it's just wow. It's just like,
well, it's
the clubs like that we support. Liverpool is like having a good story, whereas like someone like Chelsea is like having a shit story but amazing effects. It's like, and that's again, a lot of films are like that. Well, where was the story? You had some good effects, but it's like, and you're making money, but it's like, yeah, we want the backbone.
No, that's spot on. That's a good analogy. Well, that's a good segue into your musical side. So, you started you met Matt, what, 97?
I met Matt in about 96. So we were signed to, I was working with this friend of mine, Andrew, on this project called Soul Brothers, and Matt already was working with this guy, Andy, who's part of Plump DJs now. and they were called Strike, and they had this big club hit called You Sure Do, around about 95. It was like big in Australia, Europe, England. And anyway, so we were signed to the same record label, and they had these studios in, it's called Grand Union Centre. Talk about like from previous, like most places, it's now all flats. It's not, they knocked it all down, it turned into flats. Anyway, that's where we first started off our studios. So we were based out there, where they're regularly doing music in there. And at the time, sort of like we're doing house stuff. And Matt knew my music from when I was doing like my Blaps Posse and working with Rebel MC and DJ Rap and all these various other projects. And he wanted to do something more closer to what I was doing back then, to making like housey stuff at the time. So we got in the studio, we made a tune, made like a 3-track EP, and I think it was called Drop the Boom and Enter the Dream World or something like that. And just put it out. It was like a white label. Got a little buzz going, and then we did some more, and then more, and then then it turned into an EP, and kind of started getting bigger. People wanted to hear more music from us, and it kind of grew organically like that. And then we did an EP, which so the track that really kind of got us into people's got us more noticed was a track B-Boy Stance. So the original version of B-Boy Stance, for the chorus, Tenor-Fly, like in reggae tradition, a lot of reggae records, they nick the melody of something that was popular but changed the lyrics. So he nicked the melody of Wonderwall from the verse and made it our chorus. Oasis, I think, because obviously Oasis were really massive at the time, we knew you'd have to clear it. So we tried to clear it. They wouldn't let us use it. So that caused a bit of a hoo-ha in like scenes. Oh, you won't let these young guys, use this track and blah, blah, blah. So it created a bit of hype for us. So we re-recorded it and put a new chorus on it. But when it was a hit, it got radio playlisted on Radio 1 and sort of sent us on our way. And kind of, then we did an album, and that did really well. We were touring with the live band and DJing. So it's like all the forces came together. But like nowadays, if I was doing that, I wouldn't know. It's different nowadays because it was all about the music. There was no social media. There was no, oh, I look good on this photo, I look good in that, whatever. It's like, it was about music and being part of because we were part of this scene, the big beat scene, and there was a lot of big names came out of it. Well, there was, Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, sort of Basement Jacks on, not quite big beat, but, all these big names like late 90s, mid to late 90s. And we were all doing these shows all together. So it was all, it all helped the cause. And so we did this one album, and then we got signed in America to this label called Mammoth that was part owned by Disney. So we started coming over to America loads, touring loads, doing that show that you mentioned. Got to tour Lenny Kravitz randomly for about 12 shows when he was doing his American Woman tour.
How bizarre is that?
No, well, it was obviously he was doing his headline tour, and there was Smash Mouth, the second headline, and us. I think we did like a 45-minute set, and we were doing these like huge arenas and amphitheaters. It was brilliant. It was like, and touring around on a tour bus, and in America, it's like, you sort of see movies or dream about. It was brilliant fun. But then it kind of came to an end, like 2000, with the 9/11 thing happened. That stopped a lot of things. Our second album was supposed to be coming out round about then. It did come out like about a month later, but it just affected everything and just screwed us up. So kind of sort of set us back a bit. But then, and we were having problems with the UK record label. But me and Matt started making music under a different name. and putting it out with a different label, not telling the other label. But we were leaving. We were going to leave, and they were sort of going under, and hence we came up with the name Raw as Fuck. That's why we called the third album Raw as Fuck, to kind of just keep it in the sort of same psyche, you know. And that album there had the single Push Up that went on to amazingly well commercially for us as well. So it was like #1 in Belgium and Holland and Australia, and so it was really weird. In Australia, they had this guy who won Australian Idol doing cover version of our song Push Up. We went and did this. The weird thing was we went and did like the biggest tour you could do in Australia in sort of late 90s, early 2000s was Big Day Out tour. They also had this other one called, was it Good Vibrations? So anyway, but that was the main, very rock and roll, like loads of bands do it. And I never heard it. I was doing these interviews in Australia. And the first time I heard it, I think was being interviewed in Australian, one of their main radio stations in Sydney. And they showed us the video. It was really fucking awful. Like guys said, it was like, Jesus. But that's what happens when people do cover versions. But yeah, the guy won Australian Idol with this cover version of Push Up.
That's when you know you've made it.
What's that?
That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it's really weird because, I mean, I still get friends of mine in Australia, or I'll be in a gym somewhere. They go, oh, they're playing your song. And it's weird, like with music, some of your songs stand the test of time. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't, you know. I can listen to some of my music and think, you know what, that still sounds all right. 25, 26 years later, you know, I still play like the original Roughneck out and a lot of like the We Rock Hard album, some of the tracks. They still sound really good. They still rock it to new audiences and old audiences. Whereas obviously, you know, there'll be some other tracks that don't, you know, just don't sound as good. But yeah, Push Up has stood the test of time. But it's weird because if you think like, so even though like Push Up's 20 years old, which is scary. It came out in 2000. So if you think, okay, so if you go back from, let's say, if you made a record in the 50s and then you brought it and you're in the 70s, it wouldn't sound, do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't. Yeah. Whereas I think with the birth of electronic music has this thing where it kind of goes in cycles, but doesn't really sort of change much. You know, it's like drum and bass. It's the same still. A lot of people use either the same breaks or they've got new program stuff, but it still has that same feel, the same depth of the bass. House music, a lot of kids nowadays, they still want to hear the old acapellas, you know. It's like they never heard these things before, so that's why you hear, but I heard that song 25 years ago, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, but it's a new version. So it's like, so I think electronic music has this thing where it just goes round in cycles, hasn't really, I know where more it can develop anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thing.
Well, I mean, I still think with your tracks though, it's because the production was so good on it that it still sounds good today, you know. And if you hear some of older tracks, not from yourself but from others, you can tell the production wasn't as good. But you know,
I said I had a good schooling. Well, I kind of just learned on the job. Like how I first got into music, I was still at school and I was going to this. So my friend, I was the first person in my area to have decks, and my mates would come over and they had a rap crew, and I'd cut up the ultimate breaks and beats, you know, Apache or whatever, you know, the classics, and we record it on my cassette recorder at home. And I said, why don't we go to a studio and try and do this, you know, a bit more professionally? So I found this studio through a friend of mine who went there to do mixing lessons. And it was in Brockley in southeast London. It was owned by these guys called Double Trouble. And it was a tiny room in a house, you know, proper bedroom studio before the whole, you know, bedroom studio became a bedroom studio in a way. Yeah, and I started going along there. We were doing these tracks, and I just wanted to learn, because I'd have to go there and say, oh, can you sample this? Can you do this? I mean, I could play stuff, but like when it was to use the equipment, I didn't know what to do. But I thought, well, if I could learn how to use the equipment, I could do it myself. So they're kind of, one way or another, I got a job working there, and that's how I kind of got into the whole, I left school, got a job working in a studio. It was like a dream come true. I was 18 at the time. And I'd have to drive from northwest London to southeast London every day. Back then, it didn't take that long, and petrol was a lot cheaper. And there was no congestion charge, and there was not as much traffic, etc. Yeah, and I kind of learnt my trade working. I got offered this job in working in the studio. I learnt how to use, someone kind of would show me the equipment, how to use bits and bobs, and I kind of worked out quickly like how to use it. And in downtime, I'd just make demos and stuff. And then there was a guy that was coming to the studio, recording on the name Dynamic Governors, Jason, and I started, because when I was hearing his music, I was just like, this is mind blowing. I've never heard anything. It was like everything I liked about music, but just like all in one pot. And hence this is what, I don't know if you know about Black's Posse, but the first music production artist name I did was with Black's Posse with this guy Jason. So yeah, and we're just having, it was just like fun in the studio, and I kind of just learned on the job with basic equipment. Because back then it was very, very hands-on, whereas nowadays you just sit on a computer and you can draw everything in. But I don't mind. It's like the same argument, people going, oh, vinyl. It was a right pain in the arse dragging that vinyl around. Lots of people had their vinyl stolen by baggage handlers. You couldn't get it on the plane. And it's just the best thing. You just turn up the headphones and the memory stick, and it's just, and you can obviously do a few more tricks if you want, than the vinyl. Vinyl obviously very associated with scratching and stuff like that. But yeah,
well, there'll always be purists on vinyl.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, if I can, like when I'm going through ideas, I've got loads of records. So funk, whatever it is, I like, if I can sample off my vinyl, I will, rather even than from CD. But if I have to sample a CD, but I do like still using vinyl for making music if I have to sample it, or I don't know, I'm going through a track, I want to add a cappella. I've got those old acapellas, and I just kind of pitch it up, just trying to work out ideas. I'm old school. That's how I do it. I don't know how a lot of these young kids do it, but yeah. Mind you, they go on. Well, that's the thing I was going to say. Like a lot of younger generation now, it's kind of all done for them because they can buy these loop packs, and it'll tell you
sample packs, everything.
You don't even have to be musical. You can just say, right, this is the beat. It's 128 BPM. Drag it in. Here's some chords, key in F sharp. Oh, I need to match that up. Bass line, F sharp. Oh, I'll drag that in. That sounds okay. It's vocals, F sharp. There you go. And then you got a tune.
Yeah.
There's no like musicality. But I do think those tunes do kind of stand out in the fact that they haven't got that feel to someone who's actually, taken time and actually done something actually musically, or
well, I mean, back in the day, there wasn't YouTube. I mean, kids get on YouTube now, and can watch somebody do Ableton, and you can learn Ableton through YouTube. Back in the day, you had to actually go to a studio and watch somebody doing it. So things have changed, but I mean, you've still got to pinch yourself though, Aston, because you're still in the game after all these years, and you're still putting out quality. You're still DJing around the world. You get to go to places that lots of people have never been to. So you get to go to Houston, Texas, in a hurricane. So
I've worked hard. Well, I've worked hard for it. I guess but over a period of time, it comes like a natural sort of react. I just know what I'm doing. I know what I want to achieve from the music. I've just finished a new album with the Dub Pistols, so I'm really excited about that. Won't come out till like probably March next year. So that's the one thing as well. When you do these albums, you finish something and you go, oh, I've got to wait months. But obviously, the great thing about DJing is I can play out, get some people. I go, oh, what's that tune you played? Oh, well, it's from the new album. It's coming out and so. So you still get people interested. But yeah, I don't know. With music as well, I'd rather do less now than more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that stage where I don't really need to. I actually haven't released. I've got loads of stuff coming out, but I actually haven't released anything for a while, and this has been like one of my busiest years, which is like really which is quite weird. So I'm not complaining. But yeah, so I mean, I've got the product to come out. There's going to be. So we had our last album was called Other Worlds. It came out in 2021. And there's a load of people that have done remixes, so that's supposed to be coming. It's been delayed, but I've got that coming out. So there's a remix album of that. Then me and Matt have done this project, which is kind of 90s acid house, rave, sort of breaks and house mishmash under the name of Pirate Jams. So we've got an album coming out of that. And then I've just completed this new Freestylers album. So the new Freestylers album is going to be, and it's Dub Pistols and Freestylers. So I've done it with Barry from Dub Pistols.
That's a match made in heaven, mate.
So yeah, and it's come out really good. There's some, we've managed, every track's got a feature on it. We've got some big names, got like General Levy on there, Tipper Irie. We've actually got a track that was really massive. It was a house tune, and then we weren't really a dubstep act, but this guy called Flux Pavilion remixed, which set him on his career. This track called Cracks that was massive in dubstep. It's like huge. Like around about 10 years ago, it was like the biggest tune amongst the teen. It was like huge. Anyway, so the girl, her name's Belle, and she hasn't done anything for a while, and she's sung on the new album. So yeah, no, it's some really good. We've done 11. The album's finished, and I've pre-mastered it. There's 11 tracks, but because it's coming out next year, I think we're going to think of just putting one more on there. So there probably will be 12 tracks on there. But yeah,
well, will we see a Dub Pistols Freestylers tour then?
I hope so. Yeah, Well, Barry has his band thing, and obviously, like if I was going to do it, I'd kind of have to make it how I do the band, because I do it completely different. How Barry's like pitch up and go, and like, but I'm like a bit more professional as such. I like the electronic sound and everything, but we're going to be DJing. Yeah, we're going to be DJing together, hopefully, to do doing a DJ tour to promote the album or something. There will be like he'll do some band shows and I'll DJ, or hopefully come to America. I mean, I've got no idea. I know obviously Europe and stuff, but yeah.
That'd be great to see. And is there any more King of the Beats?
Yeah, well, hopefully next year we're going to come to America. Well, apparently there's going to be a tour. The problem is Lee has a visa situation. This is really bizarre. So like in about 2000, he was traveling back from his Australia tour. And he was going on Air New Zealand via LA. Mm-hmm. And back then, when you go to America, you have to fill in forms. Have you been in trouble? Somewhere he put like, have you been to prison or something like that? Or have you had a criminal record or something like that? I can't remember that. And he ticked yes. He was traveling by himself. And he's gone to the immigration on a transit, and they've pulled him up, and they apparently ended up like 3 nights in like Orange County jail or something like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what possessed him. So it's kind of screwed up his whole situation in America. So he wasn't allowed in America for ages because of that, but he has been in the last 10 years at least, because I think he has to get visas and stuff. So it'd be easier for him to get a visa. But yeah, I don't know. Madness.
No,
like you're going in transit, apparently it's funny because he was flying in business class or something. And so when they was released, when they sent him back to London, they got on the plane in the handcuffs, and they, and then they unreleased the handcuffs, and then they brought him over, a stewardess brought him over a glass of champagne, saying, "You okay, sir?"
See, that just brings back how like bizarre the world is, like handcuffs, and then you've got the nice glass of champagne and the warm
Yeah,
uh, cloth
yeah.
that they give you when you're in business class. Yeah, that's just mental.
But we're doing quite a few. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of King of the Beats. I'm doing a show this weekend. It's King of the Beats, and then we've got some. Yeah, I think like in later on in the year, we've got a load of King of the Beats stuff. Doing a show in Budapest on a boat next month as King of the Beats. So yeah, it's pretty between doing the freestylers and King of the Beats, and like the thing is, I really want this Pirate Jams thing to take off because it is different and it's like proper. I think just the audience is big, well, especially in the UK anyway. Obviously, UK audience is different to an American audience, it's like, but they kind of tend to latch on to something. If it's okay over here, then it must be okay.
Well, obviously you've been in the scene a long time, and I've been a avid listener for a long time, and it's just tough for me to like watch sometimes like what's being put out musically, and then these DJs that aren't DJs, they're posers. And because I know a lot of DJs that work hard at their craft, and then you've got somebody that their mixes are already done for them, and all they do is show up and turn some knobs looking like they're doing stuff. And that this whole like EDM scene, especially in America, is that there's no real like, I mean, for me, I really want to know the DJ's working hard behind those decks, especially if I'm paying money. And put up on this massive pedestal where you can't really see what they're doing. And, and then there's this where everybody brings this to a gig. And, that must, to perform and look out in a crowd and all you see is 90% cameras staring right back at you.
I think if you're like a new school big DJ, that happens a lot. Like the big name, or someone like that's been big for a long time, like your Carl Cox, Tiesto, David Guetta, Calvin Harris. People just go there. They just want to, But also like the new school that are really big. They just, yeah, it's just. That's what I say. It's all about. It's not nothing to do with the music anymore. You don't. These record labels don't even care about your music. I don't think you can have like the shittest tune going, but as long as you've got a big following.
Yeah, it's a brand.
It's the brand they're selling, but I don't understand because if you're selling music, the music surely has to be good. It can't just be really average and shit. And a lot of it is really average, but somehow they're getting away with it. But it's weird because I've been coming to America. Well, I was coming to America regularly from let's say 98, 99. And to see the trend before up until about 2009, generally there was only small pockets of dance music lovers, whether it be house, drum and bass, breakbeats. It was only like, unless you were like a big electronic act. I just and then obviously all of a sudden with the birth of like dubstep and that kind of EDM sound, like 2009, 2010, that's when it really got massive in America. Before that, I didn't really see it. I remember doing my first ever, the funniest thing is my first ever tour of America DJing, the first ever gig, I ended up playing for like half an hour and the promoter threw me off because they booked freestylers thinking I was like a rap act. They didn't realize I was playing at this, it was in Boston, we were playing in this really nice club. And I can't remember the name of the venue, but I just remember like they were going, "Oh, this is where Paul Alpha was playing," and so and so, so and so. I think, oh, okay. So I've gone into like where I'm playing, and I'm playing, you know, my stuff, Chemical Prodigy, whatever. And it's just like, no, man, this is too hard. We thought you were going to play some hip hop or, you know, whatever it was. And I think that, and at that time I had Navigator emceeing for me, like this tour, and I had a one break dancer. It was just really bizarre. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they pulled us off after about half an hour saying we were playing the wrong music.
Well, I think the good thing, I think, is probably 50% of this EDM crowd are going to get tired of the cheese fest, and they're going to look, hopefully, for something different, like into breaks, like into drum and bass, like into, you know, a
Yeah.
little a little bit more underground. I do. I think, you know,
Well, you would think that. I mean, there was that stage with that, you know, that proper EDM sound, that kind of,
the big rooms.
I'd kind of call it Euro rave, you know,
Yeah.
when it was, where that was just like running everything. And nowadays it's sort of like this tech, a lot of this like tech house minimal stuff that's got maybe a rap sample in it or something. It's become trendy. But you know, if you look in the Beatport top 10, what most of the stuff is, you
Yeah,
might
no.
get a random drum and bass tune, but it's generally these really dull house records.
Yeah, it's paint by numbers.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's just like, here we go, drag a bit, drag a bit.
Yeah.
But these
Yeah.
guys are flying around on private jets and, you know, and have loads of scores of people dancing behind them and hot girls and champagne and, you know, whatever you think is the, you know, the stereotype sort of EDM crowd. I mean, I went to, I was DJing in Ibiza in May. DJ Slipmat from SL2 does this festival every year in Ibiza called Step Back in Time. And they have various venues throughout the week that they hire out. And I'm pleased because I got to play in Eden. I've never played there before. It was brilliant. But I got taken to like Ushuaia on the way out. Fun enough. So the guy that manages Groove Armada used to be started off as our backline tech guy for the band. Then he ended up being like tour manager for us. His name's Jamie, and now he manages Groove Armada. And I saw him on the plane. He said, "Oh, we're playing at Ushuaia. I'll put you on the list." So I went down there, and it's just mad. It wasn't even. I mean, there's like a load of people. And I don't know what they're waiting for, but they're not really dancing or anything. Again, like with a camera, just like really unvibing. It's just really weird. And even in that club High, there, which is used to be Space, it's the same sort of thing. It's just like.
Well, I mean, it's in the name, dance, music, dance, dance. You know, but yeah, I mean, we could talk about this day because I'm.
Unfortunately, yeah, well, you know, they're trying to do, oh, no cameras. I don't know. I think it's just that generation or the new generation of clubbers, because it's become the norm. When we were doing it, it wasn't. It was all new. We didn't know what is it. It's like just went with the flow, and it was just. But now it's kind of like very corporate and very, you know, mainstream, and that's what happens when you get mainstream. Kind of loses magic a bit.
Yeah, you lose the soul.
What's that?
You lose the soul.
Yeah, that's it. But unfortunately, I don't think we can do anything about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, keep putting out, you know, incredible music. I can't wait to hear the album with Barry and the Dub Pistols because I think it'll be a knockout. But Aston, I really appreciate you coming on and having a little.
It's great to talk about two things I love: music and football, like you said.